In this episode of the Man Cave, I thought that I would broaden the content that I talk about by including some cycling-related subjects. Now, I have been a keen cyclist over the years. Admittedly, I have come and gone in and out of the sport, but I am now back in the saddle and happy to be pedaling again. In my absence, cycling has gone through some pretty big changes. There's a whole, wider variety of bicycle types, bicycle disciplines. Bike fit methodology has changed, training methodology has evolved, and the equipment, of course, has gone through some really big changes. And I mean big in a very literal way, because bigger is now better, or at least wider is now better when it comes to your tires, rims, and your overall wheel setup. When I got back into cycling, I immediately embraced the wider tire theory and set up a more modern bike with a wider tire, tubeless running disc brakes, which many riders are now sort of adopting when it comes to your road-going machines. But unfortunately, old habits die hard for an old dog like me. I immediately reached for a lightweight racing tire. And while lightweight racing tires are great because, well, obviously they're lightweight, you're not lugging around extra weight when you're cycling uphill. They give you better road feel. They're easier to accelerate, and they just overall feel a lot racier because of the more supple high thread count casings that usually come with these high performance tires. Now, all of that is great, but all of that comes at the cost of puncture resistance. And I gotta tell you, it was pretty frustrating for the first couple of months when I got back into cycling, because although the tires and the bike felt great, I was dealing with puncture after puncture. I think I punctured almost every week. And although I was running a tubeless tire system, it got to a point where I would get punctures so big that even the liquid sealant wouldn't be able to do their job and seal the tire. If you use a lightweight racing tire, they feel great. But unfortunately, you give up a lot of puncture resistance. So I made it my mission to seek out a tire that was much more better suited to the type of more challenging road conditions that I ride in every day. And this is what I came up with. This is Pirelli's Cinturato Velo TLR. Now, Pirelli, like myself, has been in and out of the cycling game over the years. They made a very strong return to cycling a couple of years ago with their P0 line. Now, Pirelli has a sterling reputation when it comes to high-performance tires for, high-performance cars and motorcycles. And of course, we can expect the same when it comes to their bicycle tires. Now, they made a big splash with their P0 line, their more performance-oriented line. But Pirelli does offer us an alternative for riders who are willing to give up a little bit of performance in terms of weight and maybe a little bit of suppleness for all-out puncture protection. This is the Cinturato Velo TLR. Now, in Italian, Cinturato means belted, cintura or belt. It's belted with aramid fibers. Let's go through some of the highlight features of this tire. Now, this is an all-season, high-mileage, all-around do-it-all tire, which places puncture protection as its foremost quality. It's got the Armor Tech system, which is made up of the aramid fiber, belting reinforcement under the treaded area. It's a relatively thick tire compared to your more lightweight tires. I think it's about 3 millimeters of tread depth with a deep tread pattern on there. So it's meant to be a long-wearing tire. It's also got further protection, bead-to-bead nylon casing reinforcement, so even your sidewalls are protected. It's got a folding bead on there with more aramid fibers. And it's designed as a TLR, tubeless-ready tire, but you can also, of course, run it as a traditional clincher tire with an inner tube on there. Some of the other features here, a SmartNet silica compound that Pirelli has used for this tire. Now, unlike other sort of high mileage tires, it doesn't feel particularly hard or slippery. I feel like you're going to have a lot of grip with this type of compound, despite the fact that it's designed as a hard-wearing tire. We don't have to worry too much about cold weather performance here in our country, but obviously we want the tire to perform well, whether you're riding in the wet or riding in the dry. And sort of just based on the tactile feel, it feels like this would be a pretty good compound for all-around riding. It comes in at a weight of about 340 grams, a little bit on the heavy side. Like I said, you do give up some weight in favor of puncture protection and higher mileage, but it's no slouch either, even when you compare it to some of the more lightweight varieties of tires out there. It is on the heavy side, but let's see how it performs when it comes to actual real-world use. Now, when you buy a, let's face it, Pirelli is going to be slightly more on the premium side of things. And when I buy a premium product, I want to feel like I got my money's worth. And when you unbox one of these, you feel that. It comes in this really nice sturdy box that you have over here, nicely packaged. I like the way that you get the tire sort of wrapped in this rubber banding that you have here. Now again, cyclists of my generation will notice that this is sort of a baller ID. If you don't feel like it's 20 years ago, and if your kids aren't going to tease you about it, you can actually wear it as a baller ID, which is kind of cool. The box itself comes with picture instructions on either side, showing you that you can mount it up as a traditional clincher with an inner tube, or as a tubeless system. Nice and simple pictures, easy to understand. So I'm pretty keen to you know, slap these on a set of wheels and take it out for a ride. So let's do that and see how these tires feel. All right, now you're gonna have to pardon the mess because that's what cycling looks like nowadays. So I've got the tires mounted onto the rims and I can share a few initial short ride impressions. All right, now personally, I feel like these tires are awesome. They're great all-arounders, but let's address the elephant in the room, and that is the weight. I think a lot of riders will be concerned about, does the weight make a difference? And I think if you're testing this back-to-back with, you know, a race day tire that's pretty lightweight, you might feel a difference. But otherwise, I think it's all gonna be in your head. Cycling can be very psychological, and if you have it in your head that you're carrying around extra weight, you're going to convince yourself that you feel that, even if you don't. Average riders don't have to worry about the weight. All right, now honestly what I think is a little more relevant to the discussion is the ride feel. I think with the coarser 60 plus TPI casing with the reinforced nylon you know, reinforcement or puncture-proof reinforcement, you're getting a slightly stiffer tire. It feels a little more muted. It doesn't quite have the silkiness of a lightweight thin casing that has more threads per inch, like 120 TPI casing. And I think that's the bigger difference. It's less plush, it's got less flex to it. So the ride tends to be a little more road chatter makes its way through the tires into the frame and onto you. And also, it doesn't have quite as much feel of the road. You can't quite feel as much the surface of the road. You know, overall, there's not a whole lot to complain about. The grip is good. I've taken a few corners pretty hard and they feel confidence-inspiring. They're comfortable enough. I think that you will get more out of the tire if you run it as a tubeless system and run it you know, on the softer spectrum of your tire inflation. For my weight and these 28s, maybe 75 to 80 psi. One note though, Pirelli does give you a maximum rim width of about, I believe it's 20 internal rim width. I put them on my Croder rims, which are actually 21s, and it gave the bike shop a few headaches in terms of installation. So that's something to be aware of, and Pirelli does tell you not to do that, but I went ahead and did it. But really, I'm not experiencing any problems. Just be aware that you could have a few installation headaches if you go wider than a 20mm internal rim width. It's such a great tire, I think well worth the price. You pay a little bit more for Pirelli, but really the confidence that I get to take on any sort of challenging terrain where I would have thought twice with lighter weight tires. I can ride on the shoulder if I'm forced to ride on the shoulder, which is where you'll probably meet a lot of debris. It's all good. It's a light enough tire, and I think you won't really be looking for more unless you are a racer. For the average everyday rider, these will do the job, and they'll do the job pretty well. So those are my initial impressions of the Pirelli Cinturato Velo TLR. This is an excellent tire, great for everyday use. I think it lives up to the promise that Pirelli makes. It gives you a great balance of performance and out puncture protection. I think if you're riding this back-to-back with a lighter weight race day tire, you might feel a difference for sure. But if you don't have the benefit of jumping from one tire to the other and you ride this for a couple of days, trust me, the average rider is hardly going to feel the difference that you give up in terms of a little bit of extra weight and a little bit of road feel because of the level of confidence that you have when it comes to puncture protection with a tire like this. It makes riding all the more enjoyable. So if you're looking for a premium, everyday, hard-wearing tire, highly recommend the Cinturato Velo from Pirelli. If you're interested, you can look up the local distributor. Now, if you like this content, don't forget to click subscribe so that you stay up to date with everything else that I put out there. Till then, I'll see you in the next episode of The Man Cave.
Here we go.